There is damage on Oahu and Kauai. The Navy sends ships out of Pearl Harbor.
The Channel 2 News at 6 with Joe Moore and Les Kiter.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday. The big story, of course, Hurricane Iwa. On Oahu, damage is already widespread but isolated. Power lines are down, and they present the greatest hazard to public safety. There also are reports of blown roofs, blown-in windows, trees and plants down all over, windward, leeward, and central Oahu. Within the past half hour, Oahu Civil Defense reported they have not ordered any evacuation. However, 4 shelters are open. They are in the Nanakuli Elementary School, in Kalapulu Elementary School in Kailua, and elementary schools in Wahiawa and Kahalu. 2 injuries have been reported here on Oahu. We'll have more on that in a minute. Hawaiian Telephone reports all of Waikiki, including the major hotels, without phone service. Otherwise, there are isolated reports of outages. And 48,000 homes on Oahu are without power. We'll have more on that later, along with more on the damage here. The Oahu Civil Defense is announcing that all Oahu police officers assigned to the first watch are to report to their respective stations at 8 o'clock tonight. The normal starting time is 11 p.m. On Kauai, Civil Defense reports that the eye of Hurricane Iwa is 50 miles to the west. The storm is expected to pass over Kauai, bringing with it winds of up to 100 miles an hour. Already there is severe storm damage on Kauai. Power is out in many portions of the island. Phone lines are down. Communication is spotty at best. In Lehue, several large buildings lost their windows. Glass shattered all over Lehue. Also, Kauai Civil Defense reports that many roofs have blown off. Amazingly, so far, Kauai Civil Defense says there have been no reports of injuries. But there are an estimated 3,000 people in 9 emergency shelters. Most hotels have been evacuated. There is a problem at the Kauai Sheridan Hotel at Poipu. You notice a little power surge here. Those are being experienced all over the island. Again, at the Kauai Sheridan at Poipu, the first floor is flooded. Communications are cut, and the hotel is attempting to move guests to higher grounds. Kauai Civil Defense asks that persons not drive because of the dangerous high winds, and persons are asked to stay at home, away from windows in all sections of Kauai. For the latest now on Hurricane Iwa, we'll go, as we have all throughout the afternoon, to our reporter, Candy FLEECE, standing by with our Scoop live remote unit at the National Weather Service at Honolulu International Airport. Candy, what's the latest?
Joe, we're at the headquarters of the National Weather Service here at Honolulu Airport. I'm here with Clarence Lee. He's the meteorologist in charge. Can you tell us what the status of the storm is at this point?
Yes, Candy. We can't tell for sure, but we think that the center of the storm is very, very close to Kauai at this time. And the reason we can't tell for sure is because we've lost communications with Kauai.
What was the last word from Kauai?
The latest word we got from Kauai, from the civil defense people, was that there was substantial damage to a lot of buildings. There were roofs blown off, there were windows broken in, and there was a lot of debris on many of the major roads.
I'm told they're trying to evacuate the Sheraton Hotel.
Yes, this is the information that I have, that the Sheraton at Poipu Beach is having problems, and they're trying to evacuate that location, but can't get into it because of the roads being impassable at this time.
Have you heard of any injuries to any people?
Yes, we understand that the police officer was injured on Kauai. Hopefully it's not severe.
What types of wind recordings do you have at this point?
The latest information we had from Kauai were that the winds were in the order of about 90 miles per hour. Here on this island, we have had winds in the order of 65, nearly 70 miles per hour on the locations at Wahiawa and at Bellows Air Force Station.
Anything on any other neighbor islands?
Yes, as far southeast as Kailua Kona, we have had winds in the order of 45 to 50 miles per hour.
And Maui?
Maui has had correspondingly strong winds of 40 to 50 miles per hour.
You expect things to get a little worse?
I think for Kauai, they are at the point where they are experiencing the worst conditions right now. but it will be several hours, maybe 2 or 3 more hours before we get through the worst of it here on Oahu.
And the storm will be gone from the islands by about noon tomorrow?
We expect that the major part of the storm will be gone by then, and we will have only residual effects at that time.
So the storm may still get a little more severe, and it should be gone by about noon tomorrow. Back to you, Joe.
Okay, Candy, thank you very much, and thank you, Clarence Lee, Chief Meteorologist of the National Weather Service out at the Honolulu International Airport. We have more now on the storm damage that has occurred so far here on Oahu. Courtney Harrington reports.
Winds over parts of Oahu were gusting to 60 miles an hour at 5 this afternoon. Anything not tied down was being turned over or thrown about. Throughout Honolulu, the scene was very much the same. Windows taped, debris in the roads, and trees bending. At Honolulu Airport, the savage gusts began to take their toll on small metal hangars. One strong gust lifted this Piper tripacer and flipped it over, causing substantial damage to the aircraft. Other aircraft were rocking violently, and several pilots say it's only a matter of time before they too break loose from their tie-downs. The wind is expected to be the strongest on the hillsides. One gust on Cam Heights was measured at 67 miles an hour late this afternoon.
Well, that's about what it looks like up here. According to the National Weather Service, this is probably nothing in comparison to what's going to happen later. Courtney Harrington, Channel 2 News.
One correction, an evacuation center that is open is Nanakuli High School, not elementary school. By noon today, the order was going out. Close up and move out. State offices, public schools, Pearl Harbor, and Hickam Air Force Base all started to prepare for Hurricane Iwa. Richard BORRECA files this report.
First to react were the public schools. Shortly before noon, the Department of Education ordered schools here and on Kauai to send home their students. At Pu'uhali Elementary, things were hectic, but actually orderly.
You got your phone calls made, right? Yeah. No. Who didn't make phone call? You better come inside, call mommy and daddy then. Come on.
As Hurricane Iwa started to close in, the private schools on Oahu also closed. Right now, all schools on Oahu and Kauai are shut and expected to remain so through tomorrow. Out of Pearl Harbor, the 15 big ships in the harbor were ordered to get up steam, leave, and head east. Many of the ships are expected to steam out to the Hilo side of the Big Island. That's where the passenger ship Constitution is now, riding out the storm in somewhat calmer waters. For the big jets at Hickam Air Force Base, there's no place in the state for them to hide, so a Condition 1 evacuation was ordered, and 24 of the big KC-130s and C-5As were flown to the west coast. The smaller planes, trainers and fighters, were tucked away in hangars to wait out the hurricane. Richard BORRECA, Channel 2 News.
As emergency situations crop up tonight, much of the burden will fall on volunteers, most of them under the guidance of the Red Cross. Chris Parsons has a report on their preparations.
Here at Red Cross headquarters at Diamond Head, disaster action teams are getting briefed on exactly what will be expected from them should the storm become much worse tonight.
Right now we've got 60 people standing by to go out and assist.
What kind of jobs will they be doing?
Well, it can range anywhere from being a shelter manager or shelter assistants to putting individuals who've lost their housing up in motels or anything like that. It's to take care of the immediate needs of the people who've been displaced from their housing. And then after that, trained caseworkers will step in after things settle down and provide for the long-term needs.
I know the Red Cross has a lot of experience in hurricanes elsewhere, but in Hawaii it's been an awfully long time. Are these people prepared?
They're about as prepared as anybody could be under the circumstances. Red Cross volunteers undergo continuous training, but this is the real thing.
Red Cross volunteers are already manning 5 emergency shelters here on Oahu. They're at Nanakuli Intermediate and High Schools, Wahiawa Elementary, Kahului School, and Ka'elepulu School in Kailua. If you should need to evacuate your home, bring with you to the shelter bedding, baby food if you need it, and any medicine you might need to take. From Red Cross headquarters, Chris Parsons, Channel 2 News.
Hawaiian Electric Company reports that 48,000 customers from Laie through the windward side into Hawaii Kai and Aina Haina are without electricity. That's the most serious power outage reported at this time. Power is also out in parts of Manoa and Kalihi. The northern part of Oahu has also been hit. Hawaiian Electric reports there's probably more to come, and crews will be working through the night.
Well, this is low dispatch of Hawaiian Electric. This is the nerve center of the entire system. You see an awful lot of activity now because there are a lot of problems around the island, a lot of outages. The storm has done a pretty good job this afternoon so far on our system. A lot of tree-induced outages is what we're seeing right now, and we can expect that to continue this evening and overnight, too.
As of 3 o'clock this afternoon, a lot of power outages were reported in Waianae, Central, and Windward Oahu. HECO officials expect those areas will be hardest hit. But in weather like this, all of Oahu is susceptible.
I think that we would advise probably what the civil defense would say as well. Stay inside if you possibly can. Of course, stay away from down lines. Try to weather this out, and we'll have the power on as soon as we can.
CARLSON says that down power lines could pose the most danger. Residents are advised to call 548-7961 to report any down power lines or blackouts. More than 24 HECO crews are on the road trying to restore electricity to blacked out areas. But once again, the key is to be patient and have your candles ready. Carolyn Tanaka, Channel 2 News.
We'll be back with more of this Channel 2 News special hurricane edition and the special precautions the military has taken when our Channel 2 News continues. If you missed our live report from the National Weather Service moments ago, winds of Hurricane Iwa have been reported on Kauai at up to 90 miles per hour in the past few moments and up to 60 miles per hour here on Oahu. A task force of American and Japanese warships about to enter Pearl Harbor this morning was forced back out to sea by the approaching hurricane. Reporter Ray Lovell and cameraman Terry Paul filed this report from on board the aircraft carrier Coral Sea.
Dawn this morning off the southern coast of Oahu. The carrier Coral Sea leads a battle group of 30 ships toward Pearl Harbor. To the west, a hurricane is boiling toward the island. In the war room of the Coral Sea, Battle Group Commander Admiral Paul McCarthy and his staff pore over the latest satellite pictures of the storm and plot its course on a map. Then the order is given. Turn the ships to the right, away from the storm.
And the last place that we want to be when that hurricane heads up that way is in Pearl Harbor.
In the open sea, the ships can avoid the storm and seek shelter north of Maui and the Big Island. The Admiral has to be concerned not just about the big carrier, but all 30 ships in his command.
Battle Group Charlie, that's correct. We've got a number of ships that are out here with us, and we've also got some ships from the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force that are out here operating with us.
The battle group has been keeping a close eye on the developing storm for the past 2 days. Still, the Coral Sea's captain said they were able to continue training operations until last night.
This storm has not hindered us in the fact that we've been able to do some of our air-to-air gunnery exercises and missile shots. We've been able to exercise the strike aircraft and long-range simulated strikes.
Out on the flight deck, the winds have picked up, and these sailors who thought they would be enjoying liberty on Oahu this afternoon have instead changed back into their work clothes. At the earliest, it will be tomorrow afternoon, perhaps even Thanksgiving Day, before the ships can dock at Pearl Harbor.
In case the bad weather keeps the battle group at sea through Thanksgiving, the Admiral says not to worry. Ship stores include plenty of turkeys. From on board the carrier Coral Sea, this is Ray Lovell, Channel 2 News.
At last report, the Honolulu airport is still open. The airport tower is confirming takeoffs and landings as soon as the planes are ready. But specific flights may be delayed or canceled, and you should call the airline to find out more information. Earlier today, all flights were canceled into or out of Kauai. Many people have spent this day getting ready for the hurricane. Others may still not be certain what to do. So Barbara Marshall reports now on storm preparations.
It's been rainy and windy almost all day today, but people lost no time in getting ready for a big storm. At Waikiki Yacht Club, floating piers were anchored, boats tied down even better. If you have a boat, the Coast Guard recommends this. Use double or even triple lines to tie it down, and nylon is preferred. Be sure all loose items are tied down or stowed below. If it's a small boat, get it out of the water. As for your home or business, you should tape or board up windows, close draperies, take in all loose objects, and be sure pets are secure. The situation in many stores today was like the one at Pay and Save on King. People were following instructions and laying in supplies of batteries, portable lights, and tape.
I've been through hurricanes before overseas, so quite dangerous really, so to tape up all the picture windows and stuff.
I'm not going to say it's because of the storm.
Not because of the storm?
It is. It really is, yeah.
You think the storm's going to hit?
Oh, it's coming. No question about it.
You should also have a battery-operated radio to keep apprised of weather bulletins in case the power goes out. And you might want to do as this man did to get ready.
Party tonight.
Oh, yeah?
Get ready for the tornado.
You think the storm's going to hit?
Yeah, I think so.
You're going to be ready if it does, huh?
Oh, for sure.
The most important thing, though, is to stay indoors. The greatest danger in high winds comes from downed power lines, falling trees, and flying debris. Stay safe inside. I'm Barbara Marshall, Channel 2 News.
One person was injured and another trapped in her home today as Hurricane Iwa wreaked havoc here on windward Oahu. Jim McCoy has that.
A Kaneohe resident was hospitalized late this afternoon after being hit by flying glass and an apartment complex. The blast of wind also sent the apartment complex's roof into the street.
We were at home in the apartment and we just had a strong gust, you know, and it just, I don't know, it's hard to describe.
Was anybody injured?
Yeah, there were, one of the tenants were injured in one of the end units.
And what was the extent of his injuries?
They took him to the hospital.
Did it appear bad?
Well, he had a cut vein and some other cuts from flying glass.
Police also reported that a Kaneohe woman was briefly trapped in her home on Kinaole Road. She reportedly was freed without injury. The high winds downed power lines and trees throughout windward Oahu. That resulted in blocked traffic. State highway workers used buzzsaws to clear many of the main roads. Jim McCoy, Channel 2 News.
If you can't remember a situation like this before in the 50th state, this is Hawaii's first hurricane in some 23 years, the last being Hurricane Dot in 1959, when that hurricane ripped Kauai to the tune of some $6 million damages. There was a hurricane that passed within about 200 miles of Kauai a couple of years ago, 1979. Hurricane Fico brought some high winds, but nothing like we are experiencing this evening. When our Channel 2 News continues, there is some news here in addition to the hurricane. Prices are up, and Del Monte Cannery is in the process of closing down.
Joe, I'm still here at the National Weather Service, and the storm is here. The winds on Kauai are gusting in the 80s, on Oahu in the 60s, and on parts of the Big Island and on Maui, they're in the 40s and the 50s. I have Clarence Lee here again with me. He is the meteorologist in charge of the National Weather Service. He's been in contact with some people on Kauai and can now update us on the damage there and what's going on that island.
Yes, Candy, we've been very fortunate in getting reports through the Amateur Radio Emergency Services. And they have told us that they're having exceedingly heavy rains on Kauai at this time, and the winds are gusting to about 85 miles per hour at Lihue, Kauai. And so we feel that the center of the storm is just north of Lihue at this time.
Okay, we seem to be having a power problem here. The lights just went out a little bit?
That's right. We have been experiencing some power problems in the airport area for the last 4 or 5 hours.
I understand we're on standby to go on emergency power here at the airport at any time.
That's absolutely right, yeah.
Okay, a little bit more about Kauai. What kinds of rains can they expect? Is this the worst part of the storm at this time?
The story in Hawaii tonight will have all the latest, including a live report from the National Weather Service at the Honolulu International Airport. Coming up on our Channel 2 Late News next.
With all the different kinds of chicken around, why is it so hard to find the perfect taste? Yeah, all right, Hana chicken. Inviting aroma, choice of salads, both delicious. Musubi with chicken, that's a winner. Now for the chicken. Not too much better. Real juicy. This chicken is Ono. True and true, right true to the bone. Hana chicken, the world's tastiest. Try 'em.
Hi, I'm Jeff Cole.
The Channel 2 News is brought to you by HonFed, where the first 800 people to open a HonFed 98 Rock Pass Card checking account will receive 98 Rock painter's caps.
Good evening. Thank you for joining our Channel 2 Late News on this Tuesday night that many of us will not forget for a long, long time. Hurricane Iwa, the order of business. We're going to check in with Barbara Marshall in just a few moments in our Scoop live remote unit out at the National Weather Service at the Honolulu International Airport. But before we do that, power outages throughout Oahu tonight. Dark for most of the evening in many parts. We've got with us now Doug Carlson, the Director of Corporate Communications for Hawaiian Electric Company. Doug, what's the situation now?
Joe, I think it's safe to say now that even though we still are literally in the dark tonight, this has been the greatest power emergency that Oahu has ever seen. Late this afternoon, we lost over 90% of the load that normally would be on our system. A normal load is over 900 megawatts. We were down to something like 60 tonight. It's been a severe storm. Waves took out poles in the Nanakuli area. We've lost lines in the mountains. I think the thing that most people want to know is how long it will be before power is restored throughout the island. And we're estimating now that many parts of the island will not see power returned until late this morning, and many others may go beyond that. It's difficult to say if we'll actually still have areas without power into Thursday, but until we really see what the extent of the problem is, it's going to be difficult to give a full and complete approximation of the damage.
Any idea how many people might be fortunate enough to have power and be viewing this newscast tonight?
Well, more than a dozen, I think, Joe. But we are bringing the power back little by little, and it's a very tedious process. You can't bring on a large segment of the community at a time. You may damage or risk losing the one line that you have. So we're bringing it back. We were down to 60 megawatts around 7 o'clock tonight. Last I checked, about half an hour ago, we were up to about 170. So it's going to be a slow process. One thing I would advise people not to do would be to open their refrigerator to see if the light's on, because it won't be on if nothing else is. And worse, you're going to lose your coolness in the refrigerator. We're just 2 days from Thanksgiving, and it's a heck of a time for a storm like this to hit.
How about, is there any problem with if the great number of people on the island leave their electricity, their light switches on, their air conditioners, whatever, if when power is restored, if everything's on at once, could that blow the whole circuit? Is there any danger of that?
I'm not an electrical engineer, Joe, but it might be a safe thing to turn off the things that might normally be on. For sure, if you think you have a range on, you want to turn that off. Anything that might create a hazard once it comes back on and you're not aware that it may be on. I think we just want to ask for the people's kokua. It's going to be a long night, a longer day, and if I may put in a plug for Hawaiian Electric's crews out there in this kind of weather, and all the people who are answering the phones and down at the system dispatch. I'm prejudiced, but I think it needs to be said.
Well, mahalo. That's well said. Yeah, they deserve the credit. Doug Carlson from the Hawaiian Electric Company. The city's civil defense network has been working since noon in the basement of the city building. Richard BORRECA has just returned from Civil Defense Headquarters, and Richard now live on our set with this report. Richard?
Joe, this is the situation with the city right now. There are 8 shelters open. There have been no serious reports of any injury, but the property damage looks like it's going to be very, very heavy. I talked to the Civil Defense spokesman about the damage this afternoon or this evening across the state. Farrington Highway is closed due to some heavy damage due to the waves. The 8 Oahu shelters, Joe, that are open so far right now include Nanakuli High School, Waianae Elementary School, Kahului Elementary School, Kahuku High School, Lehoku Elementary School, that's in Miley, Enchanted Lakes Elementary School, Campbell High School, and the Waikiki Baptist Center down in Waikiki. That's a private shelter that's also open. Now I think we can go to the tape of the interview with the Civil Defense spokesman in the municipal building late this evening.
Here we go. 3 seconds.
What's been reported to us in the Waikiki area has been that surf has been up on Kalia Road and Port Tarusi area. This was reported by the Honolulu Police Department about 7:45. Just general traffic problems, signal lights being out, that type of thing is what we've received.
Okay, moving on down over this way. Pearl City, what's the problem here?
Once again, just generally, early on in the early afternoon, about 4:20, we received a report in the Pearl City area of the Royal Sunset Drive-In screen being ripped and associated damage, individual homes being damaged, those kind of things, just generally.
Okay, down here on the leeward side, Nanakuli High School, you have a shelter open. It says you have water over the road down here, and now over here you've got big power outages. What's the problem there?
Okay, the reports that have been coming into us as the day has progressed have showed increasing severity of the storm. Probably, it looked like it peaked about 6 o'clock, but they had water over the highway, a number of sand blocking all 4 lanes at parts of the highway from Miley Point up to Waianae in various parts, and as you can see, just general high surf kind of problems and high wind. A lot of power outages, a lot of debris. There's been some problem with getting rescue crews going through Waianae. As a result, there are special road crews going out there now to try to clear some of the debris away so we can get the rescue crews in and out.
Now here near Wheeler Air Force Base, you also have power outages, is that correct?
Yeah, and then a special problem that was called in, there was some power lines down, hot power lines down in front of McNear Gate on Cam Highway, which also is a special danger. So electricity was out early on. One of the first calls that was in about electricity being out was up in this area.
Okay. Over on the windward side here, Kahului Elementary has a shelter that's open, but you also have the highway blocked with, is that sand?
Well, this is the roadway right next to the ocean along there. From the state has informed us that their information is this road is passable, so it's just this along the ocean here. Basically, we have a report of the hygienic store having been blown across that was reported on the radio earlier.
Okay, so now here in Kaneohe and Kailua, you have shelters open and also a lot of instances of power outages here, correct?
That is correct. That is.
Again, that's our reporter Richard BORRECA with a spokesman from the Civil Defense talking about damage across the state tonight. We have our reporter Courtney Harrington just back in from several of the areas hardest hit on Oahu tonight. Courtney, can you bring us up to date on your report? I know you just brought back some videotape.
We'll be back maybe about 30 minutes right now, Joe. We spent most of the evening out in Nanakuli, and the pictures that we're going to show you are right out of the camera. Basically, we're talking about raw footage. Farrington Highway right now is closed, and it's closed due to heavy damage from waves. The water started coming over the seawall shortly before 6 o'clock tonight, and within an hour, a foot of sand covered the highway for several miles. Every power line along the ocean side of the highway was knocked down, along with many of the trees. Nobody was injured in that car. When the water started entering residents' yards across the highway, police asked the people to leave for higher ground. No formal evacuation was ordered. A few stayed. Those who left went here to Nanakuli High School. Authorities had set up an emergency shelter. When we were there shortly after 8 o'clock, they had already served 160 dinners, and they had ordered 100 more. So at this moment, Farrington Highway remains closed from Nanakuli to Miley. That's about a 5-mile stretch. Parts of the road are under 5 feet of water, and the sand that you're looking at here. Police say the scene, though, is much worse in Makaha. There have been reports of homes being damaged, and one unconfirmed, and I'd like to reiterate that, unconfirmed report of a 2-story apartment collapsing and several persons being washed out to sea. Right now, no one can get to that area, though. Makaha is cut off. Repair crews are not expected to begin clearing the closed portion of Farrington Highway until sometime tomorrow. And there have been no reported injuries in the Nanakuli or Miley area. Once again, reports of damage and injuries in the Makaha area are not confirmed. Police cannot get into that area right now. It's completely blocked off.
Okay, Courtney, thank you very much. Of course, major concern right now, where is that rascal, Hurricane Iwa, and what are we in for the rest of the night? Barbara Marshall is with our Scoop Live remote unit at the International Weather Service out at Honolulu Airport. Barbara, what's the latest?
Well, Joe, the latest from here is that they're breathing quite a bit easier at this hour, although things are still very, very busy here. They've been operating under severe stress all night because they have no communication with any of their reporting stations. And so a lot of this evening's work has been trying to figure out where the hurricane is. I want to say first off that the hurricane has passed the islands at this point. Things will not get any worse tonight than they have been already. And to bring you up to date a bit on some of the things that have been happening, the phone lines in Kauai are just back on, and things are a mess over there from all we've been able to determine. Civil Defense on Kauai reports that there is heavy damage throughout the island. Roads are blocked with debris, with fallen trees, with downed power lines. There are buildings, in some cases, that are completely flattened. I'm sorry we don't have any specific locations at this point, although the indications that we do have are that the widespread damage all over the island. The island of Ni'ihau is completely without communication and has been, so there's no indication at all of how bad things are on Ni'ihau, and the eye of the hurricane did pass directly over Ni'ihau. Despite our earlier reports, Kauai did get the full brunt of the winds, but the eye of the hurricane itself passed over Ni'ihau. They'll be sending planes out tomorrow morning in an effort to assess the damage on Ni'ihau and also on Kauai. At this moment, we have only very limited reports from Kauai, but we do know that there have been several buildings flattened at Nawiliwili and also at Lahui. We do not have any report of serious injuries, nor do we have any reports of death. But all of the communication here at the Weather Service tonight has been at the able hands of amateur radio operators who are operating here and on Kauai and throughout the islands. The communication in this department has been virtually down all evening. They were without satellite for several hours, and so they had to guess at where the hurricane was. It should be a tribute to Clarence Lee, the meteorologist in charge, that when they did get satellite back, his educated guess at the location of the hurricane was only a few miles from its actual center. But once again, the hurricane right now is about 100 miles north of the islands, and according to the people here, not to worry, the worst of it is over. Joe?
That's just what I was going to ask, Barbara. The worst apparently is over. We had reports early, 100-mile-per-hour winds on Kauai, 60-plus on Oahu, and that's gone now. We don't have to worry about that coming back.
Yeah, actually, it was even worse than that, Joe. The winds here at one point hit 80 miles an hour on the airport runway out here. And the winds on Kauai, as you indicated, were over 100 miles an hour. But that's right, they are gone now. We will probably have high winds. There still is high wind warning out. There still are high surf advisories out. However, the worst of it is over, but that's not to say that anybody should go out, because they shouldn't. Things are still very, very dangerous, particularly with all the downed lines.
What's the forecast then, the immediate forecast for the rest of the night, and then at daybreak, will it be all gone? Will things be back to normal?
Okay, well, if everything goes as they anticipate right now, what we'll have is high winds continuing throughout the night, high surf continuing throughout the night, but by morning, we should see enough of the hurricane past, unless it stalls out there somewhere. Once again, these things are, as we all know, very unpredictable. But if it keeps going at the speed and in the direction at which it's going, we should be pretty well over it by around 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, Barbara, thank you very much. Barbara Marshall live with our Scoop unit at the National Weather Service out at Honolulu International Airport. We'll be back when our Channel 2 News continues to tell you about a major problem right now in the Honolulu Harbor and also the school situation for the islands when our Channel 2 News continues.
Overdraft protection used to mean another account, totally separate from regular checking, which is one reason the HonFed PassCard checking account is one of America's most advanced. Overdraft is built right in. You get interest-bearing checking, telephone bill payment, automatic tellers, and overdraft protection.
All in one account.
Keeping you in touch with your money takes innovation. Come to HonFed. It's a better way to bank.
This computer room, Danny, is the heart of the most advanced financial system in America.
Wow.
HonFed PassCard checking. Inside the computer is a world of tiny microchips.
Imagine what tomorrow will bring.
Telephone bill payment, automatic tellers, and checking with interest all in one account. Can you imagine that, Danny? Banking's changing. And the banking changes of the 80s will be coming from HonFed.
Channel 2 News was brought to you by HonFed, where you'll receive a 98 Rock Painter's Cap if you're among the first 800 people to open a HonFed 98 Rock Pass Card checking account.
I don't have a 76 credit card.
No problem. Any one of those will do.
It will?
Sure. For a limited time, we honor all oil company credit cards for any purchase up to $35. With just one signature, you're charging your gasoline and applying for a Union 76 credit card. No lengthy application form.
Could I apply for 76 credit cards?
Sign right here.
That's all?
Go with the spirit. Use any current oil company credit card at Union 76.
That's all.
The spirit of 76.
What gives New York that special glow? What puts the sheep in Chicago? What makes stars shine in the Hollywood sky? The sparkling taste of Canada Dry.
What makes America's #1 mixer sparkle? It's crystal clear. The purer the water, the more sparkling the taste. And nothing sparkles better than Canada Dry.
Club soda, tonic water, ginger ale. America sparkles with Canada Dry.
Well, on this night of Hurricane Iwa, there is a major problem at the Honolulu harbor right now with the Falls of Clyde and the Oceana floating restaurant. About 8:30 tonight, a call went out for help from volunteers to come down to the piers and help with those two ships. The high water and the pounding wind is loosening the ships from their moorings. Crews are working on the tie lines right now, but both ships are still threatened. And they may be heavily damaged yet tonight because of the winds and the high rising water. On Oahu, as we have said, the severest damage, the greatest damage, was on the windward and leeward sides. There are reports that people on the windward side have evacuated their homes for a number of shelters. The famous hygienic store may have been badly damaged. That's in Kahului. Reporter Jim McCoy is on the windward side tonight, and earlier this afternoon, he filed a report on the early damage.
A Kaneohe resident was hospitalized late this afternoon after being hit by flying glass and an apartment complex. The blast of wind also sent the apartment complex's roof into the street.
We were at home in the apartment, and we just had a strong gust, you know, and it just stopped. I don't know. It's hard to describe.
Was anybody injured?
Yeah, there were, one of the tenants were injured in one of the end units.
And what was the extent of his injury?
They took him to the hospital.
Did it appear bad?
Well, he had a cut vein and some other cuts from flying glass.
Police also reported that a Kaneohe woman was briefly trapped in her home on Kinaole Road. She reportedly was freed without injury. The high winds downed power lines and trees throughout windward Oahu. That resulted in blocked traffic. State highway workers used buzzsaws to clear many of the main roads. Jim McCoy, Channel 2 News.
Most of the injuries on Oahu being treated tonight are being handled at Castle Hospital. And officials there of that hospital say they are busy, but there is room should anyone need medical attention. And again, if there is still a danger, a big danger from the hurricane tonight, it is on the windward side of the island as the hurricane now moves away from the island chain. All public schools on Oahu and Kauai will be closed tomorrow. The University of Hawaii and community colleges will also be closed. As far as private schools go, we have received definite word that Kamehameha, Punahou School, and Iolani will be closed. And for further information, it's best that you check the radio in the morning for further listings. Public schools on Oahu and Kauai were ordered to close and move out by noon today, move the people out that were in those schools. State offices, Pearl Harbor and Hickam Air Force Base let people off early to prepare for the hurricane. Richard BORRECA has that part of the story.
First to react were the public schools. Shortly before noon, the Department of Education ordered schools here and on Kauai to send home their students. At Pu'uhali Elementary, things were hectic, but actually orderly.
You got your phone calls made, right? Yeah. Who didn't make phone call? Who you better come and call Mommy and Daddy then. Come on.
As Hurricane Iwa started to close in, the private schools on Oahu also closed. Right now, all schools on Oahu and Kauai are shut and expected to remain so through tomorrow. Out of Pearl Harbor, the 15 big ships in the harbor were ordered to get up steam, leave, and head east. Many of the ships are expected to steam out to the Hilo side of the Big Island. That's where the passenger ship Constitution is now, riding out the storm in somewhat calmer waters. For the big jets at Hickam Air Force Base, there's no place in the state for them to hide, so a Condition 1 evacuation was ordered, and 24 of the big KC-130s and C-5As were flown to the west coast. The smaller planes, trainers and fighters, were tucked away in hangars to wait out the hurricane. Richard BORRECA, Channel 2 News.
As emergency situations continue throughout the night, Red Cross volunteers are prepared to receive emergency victims. Chris Parsons reports.
Here at Red Cross headquarters at Diamond Head, disaster action teams are getting briefed on exactly what will be expected from them should the storm become much worse tonight.
Right now we've got 60 people standing by to go out and assist.
What kind of jobs will they be doing?
Well, it can range anywhere from being a shelter manager or shelter assistants to putting individuals who've lost their housing up in motels or anything like that. It's to take care of the immediate needs of the people who've been displaced from their housing. And then after that, trained caseworkers will step in after things settle down and provide for the long-term needs.
I know the Red Cross has a lot of experience in hurricanes elsewhere, but in Hawaii it's been an awfully long time. Are these people prepared?
They're about as prepared as anybody could be under the circumstances. Red Cross volunteers undergo continuous training, but this is the real thing.
Red Cross volunteers are already manning 5 emergency shelters here on Oahu. They're at Nanakuli Intermediate and High Schools, Wahiawa Elementary, Kahului School, and Ka'elepulu School in Kailua. If you should need to evacuate your home, bring with you to the shelter bedding, baby food if you need it, and any medicine you might need to take. From Red Cross headquarters, Chris Parsons, Channel 2 News.
Hurricane Iwa chased away a task force of Navy warships that was scheduled to dock at Pearl Harbor this morning. Ray Lovell has a report from the aircraft carrier Coral Sea.
Dawn this morning off the southern coast of Oahu. The carrier Coral Sea leads a battle group of 30 ships toward Pearl Harbor. To the west, a hurricane is boiling toward the islands. In the war room of the Coral Sea, Battle Group Commander Admiral Paul McCarthy and his staff pore over the latest satellite pictures of the storm and plot its course on a map. Then the order is given. Turn the ships to the right, away from the storm.
And the last place that we want to be when that hurricane heads up that way is in Pearl Harbor.
In the open sea, the ships can avoid the storm and seek shelter north of Maui and the Big Island. The Admiral has to be concerned not just about the big carrier, but all 30 ships in his command.
Battle Group Charlie, that's correct. We've got a number of ships that are out here with us. And we've also got some ships from the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force that are out here operating with us.
The battle group has been keeping a close eye on the developing storm for the past 2 days. Still, the Coral Sea's captain said they were able to continue training operations until last night.
This storm has not hindered us in the fact that we've been able to do some of our air-to-air gunnery exercises and missile shots. We've been able to exercise the strike aircraft and long-range simulated strikes.
Out on the flight deck, the winds have picked up, and these sailors who thought they would be enjoying liberty on Oahu this afternoon have instead changed back into their work clothes. At the earliest, it will be tomorrow afternoon, perhaps even Thanksgiving Day, before the ships can dock at Pearl Harbor. In case the bad weather keeps the battle group at sea through Thanksgiving, the Admiral says not to worry. Ship stores include plenty of turkeys. From on board the carrier Coral Sea, this is Ray Lovell, Channel 2 News.
Way to look for that silver lining there, Ray.
At the Oahu Civil Defense Headquarters, a lot of busy folks that are really working down there. They have phone lines